friends, thanks for joining me today for Pilates All Levels. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Audra. And today we're going to be using a foam roller and a squishy ball at home. If you don't have a foam roller, when we're rolling anything, you can use either handheld roller or like a lacrosse ball, a tennis ball. And when we're doing any sort of like balancing on our back on it, if you're like, that's too much for me, come off of it. You can do the same thing on the floor. And if you don't have a ball, you can fold a pillow in half just to get a little bit of thoracic extension and a little bit of support. As always, listen to your body and don't do anything that isn't right for it. Yeah, that's it. We're actually going to start with our armpit over the foam roller. Allowing your hand to support your head. And just roll your sternum forward a little and then backwards a little bit. And just kind of see if you find an exciting spot. We're not looking for pain, okay? We're just looking for mild discomfort that isn't that bad, okay? When you find the spot that makes you go, oh, we're just gonna hang out and breathe for a second. And then you can roll again, forward and back. Now we are on our latissimus dorsi. The lat attaches down into our thoracolumbar fascia. So if we are arching our back, we're actually shortening the distance between the origin and insertion point. So if you can, soften your ribs, tuck your tailbone, and see if you get just a tiny bit more out of it. Just a couple more breaths here. And then we're gonna focus on thoracic rotation. So your top arm can come up if you like. We're gonna reach it forward as we rotate down. And then as we open our chest, it's going to help us get that little bit of passive rotation. Thoracic rotation is really important. If we don't have enough of it, we wind up rotating a lot through our lumbar spine, even when our lumbar spine maybe doesn't want to get that much rotation. If you want to do this off of the foam roller, that's fine too. We just have a couple more. This should be feeling good and relatively easy. Only go into a range that works for you. Last one. And just breathe and hold. And then think about your rib cage sinking down so you can drag your knees to the sky. We're going to go to the other side. So you can either just roll over or flip it around. I'm going to flip mine around so I can see all of you. And just find that spot. Now, the good news is maybe this side isn't as tight, or maybe it's not talking as much, or maybe it's your excited side, right? So don't feel like if there's not tension in the same place, that there isn't tension. You're welcome to move the foam roller higher or lower, depending on your needs. Once you find that spot that makes you go, oh, hang out and breathe for a second. And then check your spine, right? See if you need to tuck your tailbone and soften your ribs. Maybe you do, maybe you don't. Maybe you want to roll out of that spot and then back to it. Maybe it's not even your lat that's talking, right? Maybe it's your rotator cuff. And if you're ready, we can extend that arm and we get some rotation. So if that elbow is more comfortable on the ground, keep it on the ground. And you just rotate. And then open your collarbones to the sky as you rotate through your rib cage. Feel free to support your head here. Couple more. And two. Good. Last one. And then It's a little bit of an awkward transition, but we're going to come onto our back, allowing the foam roller to be close enough to it that our elbows can kind of come behind it so it doesn't roll away. Once you're nice and secured, your hands are going to come behind your head. Nod your chin a little bit so we're lengthening through our ears, and then try to keep that position as we extend over. At your first line or first line of tension, pause and notice, where are you getting the most extension from? If it's your lumbar spine, see if you can tuck your tailbone. So we're trying to create a little bit of extension through our thoracic. Inhale. Exhale, just see if you can relax a little more. Yes, your neck will also start extending. That's okay. We just don't want it to lead the charge. Inhale. Exhale. See if you can relax just ever so slightly. One more. And then curl your collarbones forward. Good. When you get to the point where you have to use your face to lift, just stay there, sink your ribs back. Yeah, good. And then back up and over. Maybe you can get a little bit more range of motion the second time. Maybe not. That's okay. Inhale. Exhale, curl. Good. Just a couple more. Sink your ribs back even more. Yeah, there you go. Nice job, everybody. Just trying to get a little bit of flexion and extension. Good. Last one like this. Good. Now all we're going to do, feel your shoulder blades. Lift one of your shoulder blades off the foam roller. So try not to go into a crunch position. Yeah. And then back to center. Just point your sternum the opposite direction. We can't go super far and keep our weight on the foam roller, right? So we're just getting a little bit of rotation. And then you can rotate to one side, extend over it to the other side and come up. Extend over it to the other side. Good. So we're just combining a couple movements. It doesn't have to be big. It doesn't have to be perfect. We're just trying to create a little bit of movement and suppleness through our thoracic. If you're like, gosh, Audra's obsessed with my thoracic spine. It's true. It's true, you guys. At least for today, I am. One more. Good. And then allow yourself to come all the way up. All right, we're turning the foam roller to the side and we're going to lie down on it. So if that is a lot and you're like, I am not stable enough on this, that's okay. You don't have to remain on it. If you need a little bit more stability, widen your feet. And if you're like, I want to challenge my stability, bring them closer together. If when your feet are closer together, all of a sudden you arch, that could indicate that your TFL is tight. It's an abductor and a hip flexor. So as soon as your feet come together, it tries to flex your hips. Widen your feet enough that you can maintain neutral. Bring your fingertips towards the sky. Allow your arm bones to relax down towards the floor. Good. Now, reach your fingertips away from you so you can come into this T position, feeling those pecs open. So if your arm bone tries to roll forward, try to externally rotate it a little bit so you're just kind of sneaking your armpits towards the sky. And then reach longer through one fingertip as you look the other way. And then other way. Back and forth a couple times. Bring your fingertips towards the sky, palms facing each other. And then just reach your pinky fingers up, allowing your arms to protract. But if you think about your arm bones being what reaches, you might overwork your pecs. So I'd like you to think about your shoulder blades scooping around your ribs so your serratus anterior can help. And then relax them down onto the foam roller again. Scoop the shoulder blades around your ribs and then back down. 2 more. Last one. Palms face the knees and then allow your hands to come overhead. Now, maybe they get to the floor, maybe they don't. If they're pretty far away from the floor, that is okay. Just imagine pushing up into an imaginary surface. Inhale. Exhale, just stop pushing and see if you get a little bit more movement. If you do, awesome. If you don't, great. And then imagine that somebody's pushing your hands down. You're just going to push into them. And then relax. Sliding your elbows into a goalpost, we're seeing where that range really is. Now keep your hands right where they are. Let your elbows be heavier. Inhale. Exhale, just relax. Now keep your elbows where they are. Rotate your knuckles down to the ground. So you're going into external rotation, but trying not to let your elbows lift up much higher. Inhale. Exhale, relax. We get 1 more each way. Keep your knuckles where they are, press your elbows down. So it's coming into a little bit of internal rotation. Inhale, exhale, relax. Last one. And just see where your arms want to fall now. Slide them down towards your hips so you've got little spider fingers on the ground if you want more challenge, full palm on the ground if you want less challenge. Now just find your sacrum, that triangular bone in between your cheeks. Hopefully you can feel it on your foam roller. And your hip bones and pubic bones should be on about the same plane. Inhale without arching. Exhale, hug everything together. So think of your ribs and hip bones being pulled towards your belly button. So just with your breath, you can access your abs, right? And then inhale, let everything expand, right? Wide, low, full expansion, and then exhale, full contraction. So when we breathe, if we're allowing our diaphragm to do its job, we're actually creating spinal stability on our inhale as well as our exhale. Last one. Now on your next exhale, find that connection, push 1 foot into the floor and float 1 leg to tabletop. Good. See how that feels. Maybe it's really stable, maybe it's not. Reach that knee away from you, press that foot into the floor, exhale, other side. So we're just marching. If you're like flat on your palms and you'd like more challenge, come up onto your fingertips. If you're on your fingertips and you'd like more challenge, float your hands above the floor. If you can float your hands above the floor and you'd like more stability work, bring your fingertips towards the sky. If this is easy peasy lemon squeezy, you can take your opposite arm as leg overhead, using your breath here. We have just a couple more. Is there one side that's easier than the other? One side that wants to brace, right? These are all questions that just alert us to how our body likes to behave, right? We all have strategies. Last set. Both hands down. Bring 1 leg to tabletop, other leg comes to meet it. Now, maybe this is just where you are. If you need more assistance, widen your hands or come onto the floor. Squeeze your inner thighs together as if you're trying to pop a balloon and just tap 1 toe down to the ground slowly. And then exhale, drag it up slowly. And then other side. So if you imagine that the air is creating resistance, It can help you create tension in your body to fire muscles a little differently, right? Your nervous system can kind of mimic a closed kinetic chain or having resistance, right? So imagine that when you lower your knee, you almost have to push your foot into something to get there. Now, if you're flat on your hands and you'd like to come onto your fingers, you are welcome to, but don't lift your hands immediately because it might be a startling surprise, right? Even if you just do one fingertip at a time. Last one, hold them together. Squeeze those inner thighs together again. Slowly start to point your toes towards the ground, your knees lengthen away from your face. Hover them above the ground. Inhale, exhale, float them back up. They do not need to touch the ground. So it's about finding that stability through your core. And maybe you have really, really flexible hip flexors, and maybe you have a really stable core, in which case getting your feet to the ground is easy. But maybe you have tight hip flexors. That just means your body has to work harder to stabilize you. So instead of going past your real end range, just pause. We have 3 more. How's everybody feeling? So good? Yeah. 2 more. Last one. And then you can slowly bring your feet down and widen them if you need to. Interlace your hands behind your head. Spiral your elbows forward. Now, with your elbows forward, I want to make sure that your shoulder blades aren't squeezing the foam roller. So kind of point the bottom tips of them towards the sky a little bit. Inhale. Exhale, come into your first chest lift. Yeah, maybe you get kind of high, maybe you don't, that's okay. And then come back down. Now, as we come up into our second one, I want you to look at your eyebrows, or try to see your eyebrows. See how much harder that is to get up? Now this time, I want you to look toward your mid-thigh. Good. See how it's a little easier to come into flexion? Good. Couple more here. Now, if your tailbone immediately tucks, it's not the end of the world, but see if you can maintain a more neutral pelvis for a little bit. And then if you feel like your face is moving and your torso isn't, see if you can keep your neck in one position and sink your ribs together and belly button down to initiate rotation of your collarbones. Good. Making sure you're looking mid-thigh when you come up. Good. Who's ready to hold? Great. Hold it up. Now, if you need a foot on the ground, that's okay. Hand, yeah, the arm foot on the ground, that's okay. Otherwise, lift one heel. Doesn't have to be a whole foot, just a heel. Press the heel down. Other side. Now, as you do this, if you feel really confident, you can try floating a foot up. But keep it kind of low, so if you need to tap it down, you can. Good. Nice job, you guys. How's everyone feeling? Just, they'll take your silence as a, I feel amazing, right? Anybody not feeling their tiny little stabilizer starting to kick on a little? It is hard to lift your foot. Yeah, 2 more. Last one, each side. And slowly lower down. We're going to come off of the foam roller slowly and gently and set it to the side. Now, since we're just supine, take your arms either into a T or a goalpost position, whatever feels better in your shoulders. And I want you to actually press the backs of your hands and elbows into the ground. So if that is extended or bent, it just feels a little different, but it's all the same. So close your ribs, bring your legs to tabletop or your tabletop, right? If you need to bend your knees or extend them slightly, that's okay. Squeezing your knees together like you have a gem in between them. Lift one hip, lower the other a little. Keep pressing that opposite hand into the floor. Hold here, inhale, exhale, drag your ribs back, legs follow. Other side. Gorgeous, everybody. And back. Now, it's easy to accidentally move from the legs to get back, right? But I want you to think about your ribs. You inhale, exhale, sink your waistline back. Right? It's like in a car, I hate using this analogy, but if in a car, just because the wheels are like what makes contact with the road, it doesn't mean that they're what's steering, right? So your ribs are steering and your legs are along for the ride. Now, if you'd like more challenge, you can hold and then extend your legs and then drag them back and then bend up and over, hold, and then extend your legs and then drag them back. Almost there. Still think about your hip bones and ribs pulling towards your belly button. Trying not to arch your back here. So it's not the end of the world if you arch your back. However, last one, it will get your erectors doing more work than your obliques. And we're trying to focus a little bit on obliques here. Extend, come on back. You can always keep your legs in tabletop if that is better for you. Bring your hands around your thighs. Press your thighs into your hands so you can come into your chest lift. Good. Hands come back behind your head. We're going to push one foot onto the ground, slide it away from us. And then drag it back. Other side. Now, as you slide it away, Elizabeth, lift your chest a little bit more. Yeah, there you go. Notice what happens, right? So if you have tight hip flexors, maybe when your leg extends and pushes away, it causes an arch, right? Or maybe you're like, yeah, this is great. I got no problems here, which is also fantastic, right? So it's just information. We have a couple more. Also, just so you guys know, I'm watching you all in the mirror. So don't think that I'm ignoring you because the back of my head is to you. Okay. Last one. And then we bring that first leg out, hold. Now, the leg that's extended, you can always bring it onto the ground. It's up to you. All we're going to do, using the front of our body, imprint, and then neutral. Leg stays on the ground. Imprint, drag your foot a little closer to you, extend it away. Couple more. Imprint, leg stays on the ground. Good. Just pull your hip bones towards your face, hip bones away from your face. Hip bones towards your face, hip bones away from your face. So think if you have a tail and it's curling around and you want to touch yourself on the nose with it, and then point it away from you. Two more. Lower back flattens, lower back comes up. Everybody feel that difference between the imprint and neutral? Okay. Last one. Everybody feeling their obliques a little bit here? Yeah. Now hold this one. Push your foot so far away from you that it almost helps leverage you up. And then imagine taking half a pound of weight out of the leg. So now it might float. And then press it down to get that hamstring to activate a little bit. Push the foot away, take half a pound of weight out of it. Maybe it floats. just half a pound, not the whole leg. Couple more. It's like a baby float. Honestly, one reason the baby float is what I'd like is it's actually a lot easier if you bring your foot up. It's harder if it's down low because gravity loves to affect that extended leg. Now, you can keep the leg down or up. We're just going to rotate. So think about your shoulder blades, rotate to one side. Come back to center. Rotate to the other side. Try to keep both hips down. If you feel your hip flexors start to do the work, bring the leg down. Good. Trying to come through center. If you need a break, take one and then come back. Good. Trying to maintain that lift if you can, keeping the bottom tip of your shoulder blade, maybe grazing the ground. How's everyone doing? Good. Last one. And all the way down. Switch sides. Slide the other leg out. Now, if at any point when we do this, you need your head down, it's fine. All we're going to do, imprint, neutral. If you have your chest lifted, that's great. And as you do this, notice what your foot wants to do, right? So, for example, one of my sides, my foot wants to slide out because one of my abductors is trying to call the shots. Elizabeth, yeah, good. Couple more, good. Once again, head can be down or it can be up, but try to maintain whichever one. So if it's up, try not to let it lower. Look towards your toes for me. Yeah, good. As you imprint, notice how much easier it is to maintain your like that chest lift with your imprint, right? Yeah. Last one. Now, hold. Lift your chest a little higher. Yeah, there you go. And then push the foot away. And maybe take half a pound of weight out of it. Maybe it starts to float and then down. Good. Now, once again, if you're starting to feel this and your foot comes really high, keep it low. Think about it being away rather than up. Good. Trying not to look at the sky, you guys. Yeah. Good. Yeah. Two more. Nice. Lovely. Look at your foot, not the sky. Yeah. You get so much more height. Yeah, it's so good. Now you can keep that foot up or down and we rotate. So shoulder blades, and we just lift, curling forward. Yeah. And then other side. So if you imagine your spine like a spit that your ribs are going to rotate around. Great. Good. Both hips stay down. Couple more. 3. With the foam rolling beginning, you guys thought this was going to be super easy and relaxing all the way through, didn't you? 1 more. Each side. Nancy, did you just say no? And come back to center. Relax yourself down. You can let your knees go to one side and relax. And then other side. Good. So now we're going to play a little bit with rotation, like from our spine versus rotation from someplace else, okay? Should be really fun for me. Okay, we're going to come on up. Now, extend one leg out. Say your left leg, right leg on the ground. Now, you're going to rotate towards your left and come back to center. Now, rotating from your hip as opposed to your spine, keep your plank position as you rotate in one piece. Good. And then back. And we do it again. Rotate just from the ribs and then rotate from the hip. Good. Let's do a couple the other side. Rotate the ribs and then rotate the hip. So I like to push down into the ground and think of like a clamshell here. If for any reason it's not okay for your body to do that, you can push from your foot instead and just rotate the knee. Come back to center. Bring one leg at a time to tabletop. All right, now push 1 foot away, rotate towards that knee. Hold, inhale, exhale, try to rotate onto your side. Rotate everything back, switch, hold, rotate, come back to center. Now, if that's too much with that rotation, you can always push yourself using your foot, no problem. Good, using your breath here. Good. Now this, we're still initiating that rotation from our spine. We have 1 more each side. And then we're gonna make it a little bit harder. Exciting, right? If you're like, oh, this was fine, Audra, you can stick with this, it's okay. Otherwise, we're coming back, hands behind your thighs. Come up a little higher. Bring your hands overhead, feet away from you. Inhale, exhale, try to rotate onto your side without losing that shape. Come back, bend the knees, use your hands. Take yourself up, other direction. And then back to center, bring it in. It's, I know, right? So it's okay if you accidentally go, oh no, I lost it, right? Just come back. And notice if one side feels easier than the other, right? Couple more. If you need to keep your knees bent, is that okay? Yeah, no problem. We have 1 more each side. I like how everybody's excited about that. Good. Nice. And back. Last one. And hug your knees in towards your chest, gently rocking from side to side. Go ahead, bring your feet down. Place your hands on your thighs and gently press into those if it feels good to create just a tiny bit of traction through your lumbar spine. Now, if it is appropriate for your knees, I would like your feet to point forward and then your knees to line up with about your 2nd or 3rd toe. So knees aren't collapsed, they're not rotated out. And we're going to press down equally with our heel and our big toe mound. Now, imprint your spine, hold. Inhale. Exhale, imprint a little bit more. Hold. Inhale. Exhale, imprint a little bit more. And then press down into your feet to help you peel into a bridge position. Now, it's a Pilates bridge, not a yoga bridge. It's a little different. So at the top is your chance to check in. Is your weight on your neck? Are you lifting from your shoulders? If you are, create more space in your throat, hollow out through your sternum, let your shoulder blades be heavy, right? We're lifting from our hips instead. And then check in with your back. If you're like, ooh, I feel my lower back. Are you squeezing your butt really, really hard? Or are you dipping down into your hips? I'd like that tuck position and an easy buoyancy. Inhale, exhale, we're gonna roll down, starting from our throat, our sternum, our ribs, our low back, and then we can peel up again. Trying to find that as much articulation as if you're peeling a sticker off the wall as you can. But if you are forcing so much articulation that you are bringing excessive tension into other parts of your body, don't worry about it, right? Try to find softness, movement, melting. 2 more. And melt. Last one, we're gonna hold it up. And if your feet are wider than your hips, you need to bring them in line with your femurs. Now, if you need a little support morally or physically, you can bring your hands to your hip bones here. Otherwise, lift one heel, that's it. Press the heel down, other side. Now, if that feels great, you are welcome to float that leg to tabletop. Slowly let it lower, press down into the floor, float the other leg. Try to keep your sits bones reaching the same way. And remember, we're resisting gravity on the way down. So it's not a lift and lower like a big fast march. It is slow and controlled. That it does a couple things. One, it makes our working leg work harder, right? Yes. It also allows us to get a little bit more muscle activation through the leg that's floating. Now, if you're like, I'd like more challenge, please stay on your side, push your foot away from you and slowly fold it in for 4, 3, imagine pushing it against the wall, not letting your ribs flare, 2, last 1, switch legs, trying not to let those hips rotate too much, pushing or reaching both of your sits bones away from you like our headlights. 3 more, 2, last one, bring it down, come all the way down. Go ahead and extend one leg at a time. With your head down, legs extended, see if you can imprint your spine pretty easily. If not, bend your knees a fraction of an inch and try again. See if that was easier. That just lets you know what your leg position needs to be for roll-ups. So bring your fingertips over your head. Don't stress. Inhale. Exhale, slowly curl forward. First one never counts, you guys. It's okay. Good. And then try to create an uppercase C shape here as opposed to a flat back. Shoulder blades draw down. Imagine somebody you like is coming up behind you and hugging you. We're going to roll all the way down. Good. Yeah. Now, there are several things we can do here. If coming up is really hard, yeah. Breathe. Yeah, it was first. Yeah. Good. So, everybody, let's try this all together. We're going to hold our breath. So, whether you're up or down, hold your breath. Move while you're holding your breath. Yeah. And then we're going the opposite direction while holding our breath. So, big inhale, big exhale. Yeah, it's like shoulders, it's like lower back, right? Now, we're going to use our breath. So big inhale. 4 counts, exhale. So smooth. And then on the way forward, inhale. Yeah, nice job. Now, if that's still really challenging, you can always put a gardening pad underneath your low back. You can always use a leg to help you up, or you can always just do the downward portion and use your whole body to get up for the upward portion, right? See, you went from your first one being challenging to do a neck pull. All right. Now, if you love teaser and you're like, man, teaser is my favorite, I wish we could do teaser all the time. You're in luck. We're going to do a teaser variation. You guys all need to meet me up here though. Good. So first, we're going to find our tailbone and our sits bones, right? So if we're up on our sits bones, it's harder to balance, right? So be on your tailbone, find your abs, or be behind your tailbone. Squeeze your inner thighs together. Think about one foot just lifting a little. And then try to come up on your sits bones. It's so much harder to maintain that, right? Other side. Yeah. So now we're going to squeeze our legs together. We're going to push them away from us, like we're trying to touch the opposite wall. Okay. Curl your tailbone, roll back behind it. Think about squeezing and pushing, and then take your hands behind you and see if you can let your feet lift. Yeah. Hey, if your knees need to bend, is that okay? Yeah. And then forward. Those looked awesome, all of you. We're going to do it one more time. So if you're like, hip flexors, quads, bend your knees a little, it's fine. And then just see. It's like magic, right? So you've now hit your teaser position. Great. Now you can come all the way down, and you have options. You can either just go into teaser. You can stick with roll-ups, or if you want something in between, start curling and bend one knee towards your chest as you curl up, and then extend it out as you lower, curling your other knee towards your chest as you lift. Yeah. Good. We have 4 more. So everybody doing the knee curls gets 2 more each side. Don't feel like you have to come up past your tailbone. Good. Once again, that curl and lift, yeah, is great. Last one. And go ahead and come all the way up. Feet together, knees apart. Relax over your legs for a second and just breathe. Good. Now, you can either stay here, you can sit on your foam roller for a second, or you can be on your knees, whatever's most comfortable. We're just going to get a little bit of spinal rotation. And I'm going to be up here, so my hips are a little tight today. Now, just so you know, if you're up on your foam roller, it's also an added balance challenge. So if you feel it's a little too wobbly, don't worry about it. Bring your hands to your shoulders and let your shoulders just kind of come up and over. And then opposite way. So they're not retracting so much as being tucked under, like a posterior tilt. Your elbows will point forward a little. Yep. Good. Now, keeping that, just think about your right shoulder blade. You're going to draw it down and back a little and let it help you rotate. And then come back to center. Now think about your left shoulder blade drawing down and back, and it's going to help you rotate. Good. Using your breath is really important. Now, as we do this, think about your opposite shoulder, right? And in fact, instead of really thinking of the shoulder blade, just think of that elbow pointing forward slightly and see if that helps you rotate. Doesn't even have to be big. It's just a little bit of protraction versus tiny bit of retraction. One more each side. Good. Nice, everybody. We're going to use that foam roller again as we come onto all fours. Now, if it doesn't feel comfortable to have it underneath your forearms, you don't have to use it. But we're going to begin with the foam roller being close to our elbow, but not on the elbow. That's going to be really challenging and probably doesn't feel the best. So sink your whole body down so your shoulder blades come together a little bit, and then press your whole body up to the sky, lifting your belly button. Now, just hover one of your feet away from you as you push it away, and slowly let it fold underneath you. Other side. A lot of times we're real deliberate on the way out, and then we're like, meh, on the way in. So I want you to think of gravity helping pull you down, and you're just resisting gravity a little bit. If you do that, hopefully you feel your glute a little bit on the way out, and you feel it eccentrically on the way in. Leg doesn't need to be high. It's barely a hover. It's like you're almost sliding it across. You're creating a tension rod from your ears to your heel. Good. Now, if this feels good for you and you'd like to challenge yourself more, come into a plank. And just breathe. Good. Making sure your tailbone is not sticking to the sky, but is gently tucked under. Good. Yep. Lifting your belly button higher than you think it needs to be. And then if you feel your hips, you might be in hip flexion, right? So lengthen through your hips, press up towards the sky. Good. And then take a breath, knees down. Good. So everybody, put your hands here for a second. Lift your ribs for me. And now pull your belly button and ribs back. Feel how this kind of lengthens and feel how it causes your tailbone to kind of tuck under like a dial, right? So keep that kind of length of your spine for me. Whether you're doing a regular plank or a plank here, try to find that length of your spine here and then keep it in your plank. So none of this. Good. One more. Point your tailbone towards the ground. Good. Couple more. Can you lift your hips for me a little bit? Yeah, and then just kind of think of your hip bones doing this. Like, yeah. Gorgeous. Good. Two more breaths. Can you lift your belly button for me more? Yeah, just like that. Good. And then knees down. Press yourselves into a rest position. Yeah, rest position. You guys are like, what do you mean rest position? I mean, like a child's pose. Hands can come up and over to one side. Press your hips away. Yeah. And then other side. And then we're coming on to our side. Now we've got these foam rollers. You have options. You can either use it as a little pillow. You can kind of hug it to help stabilize you, or you can just get rid of it. I'm going to use mine as a pillow. Think about your top hip bone and lengthen it away from you, lifting your bottom rib, making sure that your rib cage is just nice and flat on your pelvis. Push 1 foot away from you. And then let it hike, and then let it lengthen away. Now, just hold for a second and start feeling where you feel the sensation. So if it's front corner, I want you to drag it back a tiny bit and even externally rotate if it feels better. So I want that glute to start helping. You might accidentally kick your water bottle, just so you know. Yeah. So first, we're going to paintbrush that foot up an imaginary wall and squeegee it down. Bring your heel back behind you just a little bit. Yeah, good. And then keep it there so it's a little bit more glute. Now, if you still feel the front corner, that was good. Think about your top hip bone pointing forward, right? As opposed to towards the sky. You don't have to go very high in order for this to be effective. 2 more. Last one, hold. Now imagine your foot is just against a wall. I'm going to push into that wall a little bit. And then relax, just push into that wall. Maybe your leg doesn't even move. But do you feel the difference between thinking of it just hanging out and it thinking of being pushed into a wall just a little bit? Yeah, our nervous system is so cool. 2 more. Now hold that one and push it back another inch and hold. Everybody feeling that glute kicking on? Now tiny circles. Thinking of just the thigh bones stirring in the socket. We did all that ab work earlier. So we're trying to keep our spine out of it. We have 4, 3, 2, gorgeous. And then other side. Good. 5, 4, 3. Nice job. All right. And then we just hip hinge. So without letting everything move, just sweep that front leg forward and then drag it back. Good. And sweep it forward and then drag it back. Gorgeous. Now, as we do this, when we're walking, it is normal for our hips, like our ilium, to move a little bit, right? But with this, we're trying not to let the back do the work, because if we tend to overextend through our lumbar spine, we actually stop using our glutes as effectively. So we're trying to find that glute to drag that leg back without the lumbar spine doing all the work. Good. And then bring your knees together. Now, if it doesn't feel good to get rotation in your hips for whatever reason, you can just abduct. Otherwise, lift your feet and we lift that top knee. Good. And then slowly lower the leg as if I'm pushing down on you, and then up. Now, try not to let your hip bones point towards the sky, because I don't really care if your knee can point towards the sky or not. I want your hip bones to point forward. Stick your butt out a little bit, and then keep your pelvis right there. Let your thigh bone only move to its full range. Good. 2 more. Last one, hold that up. Now keep your knees still. Lift the foot. Let the foot only drop. Keep the knee still, lift the foot. So it's rotating. So keep the knee still, rotate from the thigh. Yeah. Couple more. Last one. Guess what, everybody? Other side. So you can smack that hip out if you need to. Otherwise, we're just going all the way. Everybody feel that glute a little bit rather than just the hip flexor? Great. Good. So go ahead. Think about that top hip lengthening away from you. Bottom rib lifts a little. Extend that top leg out. Check to see if you can see your whole foot. If you can, bring it back a little bit. And paintbrush the foot up. Think of pushing it away from you, and then squeegee it down. Push it away and squeegee. Few more. Gorgeous. Now, as we do this, if you hit a point where in order to keep lifting your leg, your ribs have to sink, that might be your end range abduction. So instead of keep lifting higher, just hold, push the foot away a little bit more. Good, we have 2 more. We're almost there. Last one, bring it about to in line with your hip, and just imagine pushing into the wall. Pushing into the wall. Maybe the wall is half an inch away from you. Maybe your heel is already touching it. Does not matter to me. We have 4, 3, 2. Good. Hold the leg back in space. Tiny circles from the thigh. Good. Just a few more. 5. Reaching it away. Good. 2. And we reverse it. Still trying to use our breath to help stabilize our spine. And then we slide that foot forward. So it's a hip hinge and hip hinge, right? Think of that thigh bone just moving freely and unobstructed in the hip joint. Good. How's this side feeling in comparison to the other one? Amazing? Great. Already a little tired. This is working to stabilize us before. We have 3. Think of that foot reaching away from you rather than just back. Last one. Bending your knees together, lifting your feet, making sure your hip bones stay pointing forward, and spiral that thigh bone in the socket. and then slowly lower. Good. Now, if you're tucked, you might start feeling it more in your hip flexor, like that TFL. So stick your tail feathers out and see if you can find that spiral from that glute. Good. Beautiful. We have 4 more. And nobody is perfectly symmetrical, right? So maybe one side is easier to find than the other. That's okay, just good information to have. Last one, hold it up. Now keep that knee still, just rotate the foot up, rotate the foot down, rotate the foot up, rotate the foot down. With 4, nice. Last one. Good. Go ahead. Come on to your stomach for a second. You can move that foam roller out of the way. Create a little goalpost with your hands. And think of tucking those shoulders into, or shoulder blades into your back pockets just a little bit. Press your hands and elbows into the ground to spiral your collarbones forward and get a tiny bit of upper back extension. Now, lift one foot, press it down, other side. So hopefully you feel from side to side, if one side likes to do something just a little bit different. That's all right, it's all information. Now, if this feels good and you'd like to extend your arms, you can float opposite arm as leg. Think about your lower trap initiating. And then if that feels good and you'd really like to do full swimming, float them all, inhale, exhale. Now, if it's like you've hit a bunch of waves, bring it in. Yeah, that looks great. 4, 3, 2, hands down. Think about first, letting your shoulders point down, and then think about tucking those shoulder blades down. So you feel your mid back here. Inhale, exhale, push yourself into your push-up position. You can be on your knees or feet. We're going to slowly lower. Making sure we're not dumping forward, pull them back. Inhale, exhale. Good. One solid piece. Last one. Press yourself into a downward dog. From there, you can pedal through your feet and walk your feet towards your hands and just dangle for a second. Feel where your weight is. If it's all in your heels, see if you can bring a little bit of weight into your forefoot as well, and then roll all the way up. Now, bring one foot in front of the other. You can soften that knee a little. I'm actually going to squeeze your glute forward so you're not in a flexed hip position. Then push into the ground to help you straighten the leg. You can float that foot up. Good. Now, close one eye. And then switch. Yeah, if all of a sudden everything gets real wobbly, that's okay. It just gives us information. Try to think of pushing down to lift up, right? It's that tension rod, that shower curtain rod. Now, if you're feeling stable and awesome, close both. Couple more breaths here. And it's okay to be the willow tree instead of the oak tree. Good. All right. Ready for that other side? The good news is this might be your easier side. So squeeze that glute forward and then push down into the ground. So you've got glute, hamstring, quad, core, all nice and helpful. Good. And check your knee, right? If you love to hyperextend your knee, that's actually going to be taking you into a plantar flexed position at your ankle. And we'd like to try to find neutral if possible. It can be hard to find, right? And so go ahead, close one or both eyes. A few more breaths. You guys did amazing today. Last one. Bring your foot down. We're going to end with a roll down. Nod your chin, hollow out through the front of your body. And curl all the way up. Go ahead, flip your thumbs back, open your collarbones to the sky. Come back to center, slide your shoulders to your ears, and then just let gravity help them down. Yeah, nice job. Give yourselves a round of applause. Thank you so much for joining me.